our LinkedIn discussion today with this, and it starts with a short version of my LinkedIn story. I'm currently a 54-year-old business owner and business person here in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and it was about 4 years ago when I was in the middle of this recession, and as most people were, and looking for ways to grow my business and new and different things that I could do. You know, it was just that kind of an environment, as we know, and for some people it hasn't even gotten that much better yet. So I was searching around for something to do and how I could grow the business a little stronger and do something different. And I had a friend of mine who would hound me and bother me every Sunday after church telling me why I needed to be on LinkedIn. And believe me, I blew him off every Sunday and told him to have just a great week because I wanted nothing to do with social media. I was so against social media, it wasn't even funny. Not just LinkedIn, but Twitter and Facebook and all the rest of them. I thought as a 50-year-old business owner, I'd never have to use this stuff. You know, I was pretty much sure I would retire without needing it. And I'm sure there's some of you probably thinking that as well. So then I tried it. I just gave it a shot, and I'll tell you, I saw a few things that it could do for you that I thought, boy, this could be very powerful. And for the next few months, I studied how LinkedIn worked, and with the objective of just hoping to understand enough about it so that I could help my organization, and really not thinking I would move on to what I've done 4 years later as the author and speaker and trainer and consultant. That was never my intention, but it was just to grow my business and help people around Milwaukee learn how to use LinkedIn while I was sharing our business story. We sell office furniture. That's what we do. So anyway, make a long story short, I trained over 105 different classes for the next year and over 4,500 business folks, conferences, conventions, Rotary clubs, you name it. And what I was finding was that nobody really knew anything about LinkedIn or how to use it. Lots of people were on LinkedIn, but nobody knew the power. And so that's what I hope to do today, is to spend some time with you guys and show you some of those things that so many people don't realize that LinkedIn can do for you. Most people are on LinkedIn and they have some kind of a profile, but they have no idea what the power is. So let's just jump right in. And I always like to start off by showing you how LinkedIn works, because I think that's an important foundational thing that you've got to understand. And the screen I'm going to show you next, you get to by going to Contacts, Network Statistics. By the way, we are live on my LinkedIn account, so any prayer warriors in the room, keep praying that stays up. I'd love that. I like to do it live because I think it shows the impact of some of the things that we do. So if you go to your account, go to Contacts, Network Statistics, what you're going to see is a screen that looks something like this. And notice the words in green. Your network of trusted professionals. That's very important for you to understand that why LinkedIn exists and what their purpose was. It was for you to take your network, and your network are the people that I always define my network as the people I know, love, care about, and if they called me, would I help them? And get them in here to your LinkedIn account so that you can do lots more damage with them. And when I use the word damage, I mean very positively damage. And so it's as simple as that. You get the people that you know, love, and care about, get them into your LinkedIn account so that you can be more effective in your networking. But take a look at this word, trusted. You know, it's pretty interesting that LinkedIn used that word when they describe what the tool is going to be used for. And, you know, it's not meant for strangers to connect with strangers. And I'm sure most of you on this call have had that happen. You've actually had people who requested to join your network and you didn't even know who they were, and you're thinking to yourself, what is going on with that? And that's really not what the site was designed for. It was designed for you to load in here your first degree connections right here at the first degree, and those should be your trusted friends and colleagues. And so what's going on LinkedIn is sort of the Kevin Bacon thing. You got to get that. We're all separated by degrees of separation, and somehow Kevin Bacon got dropped into that story that we were all connected all over the world by 6 degrees. Well, Facebook has since come out and said that that's not exactly the case. It's 4.75, you know. And of course, anything Facebook says is probably true. Just kidding. But on LinkedIn, we get to see 3 degrees of separation. And that can be very, very powerful. But before I leave the screen, I want you to just get the fact that what you do is you connect with people only at the first degree. And the second degree, which are friends of friends, as you can see here, and third degree, where we can reach users through a friend and one of their friends, come by virtue of having a first degree. So you don't think to yourself, well, I think I know this person just a little bit, I'll make them a third degree. You do not add third degree people. You only add first degree, and by virtue of those, you get their seconds and get their thirds. But you notice the numbers can get huge. And the numbers get so big because it's a pyramid, right? Every person that you add, you get to see their seconds and their thirds. So I want to make sure you guys get this, and be sure to go check your numbers. You know, that's important to sort of get a starting point. But make sure you get this. If you were to add me today to your network, and you know what, I would appreciate the connection request. As long as you told me how we met and you listened to the webinar and you learned a few things, you'd like to connect with me, and maybe we could help each other by connecting. But if you connected with me today, you got to be able to answer these questions right. How many new first level connections do you get? And if you're thinking to yourself, one, you are right on. The one is you get me. Now, when I ask the second question, how many new second degree connections do you get? And if you said, well, 2,084, you'd be spot on. You get 2,084 second degree, those are my first degree. And if I asked about third degree, 332,100 would be the right answer. And if I asked fourth degree and you're ready to say 9.2 million, you'd be wrong. You don't get fourth degree, you only get third degree. But just think how cool it is. By the fact that you've connected with me, you're going to be able to possibly call me up and send me an email and say, hey, Wayne, one of your 2,084 people I'd like to meet. It's somebody that I would like to reach out to and make a connection with. Would you introduce me? And that's what makes it powerful. And even to the third degree where it's over 300,000 people. So that's the very first strategy you have to make on LinkedIn is who are you going to connect with? And if you keep it with people you know, your trusted friends and colleagues, you really can't go wrong. On the other hand, as you progress in your experience on LinkedIn, you may start adding other people. And I'm not against that you add people that you might not know and trust, but people you'd like to know and trust. I'd love you to continue to grow your network bigger and bigger. But with this in mind, you shouldn't just be adding people for the sake of adding people. You should be adding them strategically. And, you know, because if you think about it, if you step back and I asked you this question, do you want a bigger network tomorrow than you have today? Most everybody would say, well, of course I want a bigger network. Networks are great. Networks are one of the great things in life that we have, and they're friends, and they help us, and we help them, and so on and so forth. So the answer is you want a bigger network. Well, LinkedIn is that tool that can help you grow your network. And what's so neat about it is it can grow your network while you're sitting home watching your favorite football team or baseball team. And that's a good thing to be able to do that form of business development, networking, looking for a new job, all those kinds of things that LinkedIn can do for you while you're sitting at home. And I'm not against, and I still encourage people, hey, you know, face-to-face networking is still critical in any industry and business that we're in. But LinkedIn allows you to do a form of networking in between those times when you get to meet some people. So that's how it works. And hopefully you get that and you start to think about a strategy about who you're going to add to your network because it's a critical component. So I'm going to jump right in and show you a bunch of things. I'm going to move pretty quickly. I know I'll frustrate some of you because I'll go so fast, but you know what you need to really do. Today's conversation is about showing you some of the techniques and get you sort of fired up about LinkedIn to either do it purposely or really the other side of it is just forget it if you're not doing it the right way. And you may have to pick up a tool like my book, The Power Formula for LinkedIn Success, so that you can work through a program to help you do this right. But let's look at some of the best features on LinkedIn and some of the features most people don't realize exist. I'm going to start with the #1 feature on LinkedIn, and it's advanced people searching. And how you get to advanced people searching is you go on your home page and you click the word advanced. Up in the top right-hand corner next to the blue magnifying glass, you click the word advanced. And when you do that, you get a screen like this. And that screen is basically like Mr. LinkedIn just walked in the door and said, hey, who are you looking for? Because that's really what LinkedIn is. It's a people searching database, and it's a way for you to find the people you'd like to meet. So LinkedIn can help you with that. So Mr. LinkedIn says, yeah, what's going on? I said, well, I'm looking for somebody. I'm looking for an electrical engineer in the Milwaukee area. And you said, well, Mr. LinkedIn says, I may be able to help you with that. Let's just see. So this is how you do a people search. You drop in the words. In this case, we're going to look for electrical engineer in their job title, and we're going to look in the Milwaukee area, and we'll make this 25 miles, tighten it up a little bit, and I hit the search button. I get 757 results. Now let's say I want to change one criteria just to show you how this impacts things. I'm going to change it to current instead of current or past and see what happens. Now I get 331 results. So that's what LinkedIn is. It's simply just a people finding machine. It's got 161 million currently resumes, profiles in the database. And it allows you to look for the people you want to find. So let's say I'm looking for, like I said, electrical engineer somewhere in the Milwaukee area, but he or she has to be doing that currently. So what does it show me? It shows me Dave, and you see right next to Dave's name, there's a first next, one ST right next to his name. So Dave's already a friend of mine. Same with Eric Peterson. And you know what? And if I was using LinkedIn just to find Dave and Eric Peterson, I wouldn't need LinkedIn. Because if you think about it, these are people that I already know. Now, but let's scroll down a little further and look. We got Jose and we got George. Let's look at George and say, let's say we're interested in talking to George because he works at GE Healthcare. And what you already know now is you know that George is a systems electrical engineer at GE Healthcare. You didn't know that before. Same with Daniel, next one down, electrical product engineer at Magnatech. So instead of having to call up and ask for an electrical engineer who you never know what you're going to get, you now know that Daniel has that job. But here's the real power in LinkedIn. By clicking on shared connections, I'm able to see that my friend Gavin knows Daniel, because Daniel is a second degree to me, Gavin is a first degree. So just think about what that just did. I do not know who Daniel is, but I know Gavin. And that's the power of LinkedIn right there, is that we can now find out who all our friends know. Let's look at another one. Let's move down to Jim Lombardi. James Lombardi, let's see, I clicked that on, and my friend's name is Crit. Crit is friends with James Lombardi, and so on it goes. So that's the number one power of LinkedIn, is that it shows relationships that already exist. Gavin knows Daniel already, so does Crit knows James, but I don't know that until I'm able to do a search on LinkedIn. So just step back for a moment and think about how you want to find people for anything. And it's not always looking for employees. It's not always looking for customers. It could be looking for experts about things. It could be donors for a nonprofit, or it could be this. My wife came up to me several months ago and said we needed a roofer for our house. So I typed in roofer or roofing in Milwaukee, and sure enough, because she asked me, do I know any roofers? I said, no, I don't know any roofers, because I didn't know any roofers at the first degree. But I knew that if I searched on LinkedIn, I'd find a bunch of second degrees, because as you could tell, I got a pretty large network, especially here in Milwaukee. And sure enough, there were a whole bunch of second degrees. I called my first friend up at the top and asked him how well they knew the roofer. And what was interesting, the guy says, oh, I know that roofer. Why? Why do you call? And I said, well, I need a roofer. And he said, it was sort of funny what he said. He said, don't. I said, what do you mean don't? And he said, well, you know, I'm a good Christian guy. I don't. I said, well, what does that mean? He said, I'm just not going to tell you anything more. Just don't do business with him. So I said, well, thanks. Thanks for the information. I hung up. And the next person I called, same question. And they said, you're going to love this roofer. If you need a roofer, you should call him. And 4 days later, that was the roofer who was on my roof. So it's really looking for any person that you're looking to find by thinking about the search criteria that you can use on LinkedIn, and that can be keywords throughout their profile. It can be titles in their job title. It can be companies. It can be parts of the country. That's what we did with the zip code. It can be colleges they went to, groups they're in, and so on and so on. So at the 35,000-foot view, what we got here with LinkedIn is we have the largest business professional database we've ever had in our careers for whatever we're looking for. So no matter what job you're in, I'm sure you're thinking to yourself, I always have to find people for this or that or the other thing. And that's what you use this for. Now let's say you're a job seeker and you're interested in a job at a certain company. Let's use GE just for an example. And you just fired your resume off, let's say, to GE, or filled out an application online or whatever the process is there. Well, what you would do is you would go up to the company name, you'd put GE in the company name, and you type in the title HR or Human Resources and see if you could find anybody in your network that knew somebody that worked in that department. So that's how you got to be thinking about LinkedIn, is you need to think about how people look for people and how you could look for new people in your life to try to accomplish your business goals. And it's just, that's the power of it. But then the key is, now that you found them, do you have a friend that could introduce you to them? All right, I'm going to just show you one other thing when we do one of these searches. Let's see if I can help you with that. I want to try to show you, let's see here, third degree. What people get to see on LinkedIn is anybody who happens to be at the first degree, second degree, third degree, and in groups. That's the viewability. So I just revised this search a little bit so I could show you some other results. So check this person out here that says electrical engineer at Electro Power. Now you can't see that. I cannot see who that person is. No picture, no profile. And the reason is because that person is past third degree for me, and I'm not in any groups with them. So what happens on LinkedIn is you get complete viewability of somebody's profile if they end up being first degree or friends, second degree friends of friends, third degree friends of friends of friends, or you're in groups together, or they show up like this. So people that get frustrated on LinkedIn are those people who have about 35 first-level connections, let's say, and they try to do some searching. And what you're going to get is lots of entries like this. And you're going to think, well, what's wrong with this person? Why didn't they put their name on LinkedIn? Well, they put their name on LinkedIn just fine, but you can't see them because they're at the fourth or fifth or sixth degree or whatever, because you got such a tiny network. So think about connections on LinkedIn as the gas in the tank. And the car goes further by lots of gas in the tank. And you're going to go a lot further on LinkedIn by having a lot of what? Connections. Now, that being said, I'm not asking you to go out and connect with strangers, that total strangers that have nothing to do with your industry or where you live or whatever. But the point is, you're not going to accomplish very much on LinkedIn when you're searching for people if you have under 100 connections. And most of us experienced business folks have more than 100 connections. As a matter of fact, the books that I read say most of us have 150 to 250 people in our business world that would qualify as sort of a first level connection. So you got to work your way to get into the having enough connections so that LinkedIn can work well for you, the searching part. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to leave this part of LinkedIn. It's the people finding part of LinkedIn. It is the #1 use. You're going to get good at this part of LinkedIn by having lots of first level connection, joining lots of groups, and understanding how searching works. And you know, everything on the internet is about searching. You have to get better and better at the kind of words you use and the other criteria. The same kind of searching criteria ideas you use on Google are the same ones you're going to use on LinkedIn. So for example, if you're looking for an office furniture person, you need to put quotes around office furniture. You're going to get office and furniture. Okay, that's a Boolean search logic. You guys probably understand that, but just in case you don't, you follow the same thing, Boolean search logic. Okay, I'd like to show you one more finding tool on LinkedIn. The last one was finding people, and now we're going to find companies. So by clicking the word companies, you get to the company homepage on LinkedIn. Let's say we're going to look for companies that have the word electrical engineering in their company page. Search. There's a company page on LinkedIn. They're not profiles or pages. And let's say I'm interested in Milwaukee because I'd like to, well, in this case, say we're going to look for a new job. I click on Milwaukee. I'm looking for electrical engineer in Milwaukee. There are 39 results that come up. And I'm going to look at one of the, I'm going to say, let's look at Wago Corporation. Here's their company profile on the company page. And you'll see that I'm connected to 16 people in my network. There are 236 people on LinkedIn from this company. You read this over, you see if it's interesting to you, and you look for somebody that you want to connect you want to reach out to get introduced to the right people. As a matter of fact, here's the HR person right here on the first page. So if I just applied for a job at Wago, I would sure reach out to one of my 4 friends here and try to meet Carrie and see if I could have Carrie help me try to move my application up the process. The other thing you'd want to do on a home page is click to the Careers tab and see if there are any jobs posted that you're interested in. And there are the jobs that Wago is currently looking for on LinkedIn. The other thing you'll want to do is hit the Follow Company button right here. Follow Company means you get to do some stalking of your own on LinkedIn to the companies that are interesting to you for whatever reason they're interesting. And what you'll get then, you'll get to get information from that company that they're sharing and changes in the employment. What I mean by that is people coming and going, because LinkedIn knows people who have come and gone from Wago, and company status updates and other information that the company shares through their company page. So it's a very powerful tool. Another way to search on LinkedIn is, remember, it's just this database about people, but there's also a company page as well. But the company page, for the most part, is all about trying to figure out who knows who at the company and then trying to use that as a different way to look at, to meet the right people that you want to meet. So that's the company page on LinkedIn. Try it out. Get in there and look for the companies you're interested in. Follow them. See who you know somebody, and make those connections. Okay. Next stop along our journey here is about your profile. We're going to talk about your profile. So think about what does a profile look on LinkedIn. Some other document we use in business all the time, and it's what? Hopefully you're thinking it's a resume. And yes, it does look like a resume. And that's good and it's bad. And the reason it's good is because we all know what goes on resumes. So we understand that part. But the bad is most people load up a bunch of resume information and they stop with their profile, missing a great opportunity for a personal branding about you and your company. Let me give you an example. Let me tell you a story that just happened to me a couple months ago. So I meet with a banker here in Milwaukee, commercial banker, first time ever, and we had breakfast at Panera, and I said, so tell me about yourself. And he went on for about 10 minutes about this, that, and all the things he's done and the kind of clients he has, and just great stuff, right? I worked for these 3 banks in my 30 years. And so we got all done after this 10 minutes about how good he was and what he did. And I asked, and I said, you know what, if I needed a commercial banker, man, I'd have you on my list. That's good stuff. Because he told me he really told me his branding story. And then I said, but you know what? And he said, no, what? I said, this guy, and I opened up my briefcase and I pulled out his profile. And I held it up in front of him. I said, this guy I'd never call. He said, well, why wouldn't you call? That's me. And I said, yeah, I know it's you, but do me a favor, read this. So he looks at the profile and says, oh, okay, I've been a banker at U.S. Bank for 6 years, and I went to Whitewater and got my college degree. I said, that's all it says. So think about it. You haven't told me that on your LinkedIn profile, you've told me nothing interesting. You've told me nothing that makes you different than every other banker that's in this town. These guys are a dime a dozen. But when you explain for 10 minutes about who you are and what you stood for and your experience and all that, it was great. So that's where people are missing the opportunity on LinkedIn by loading up some resume information and figuring, okay, I'm all done. And the opportunity is to tell the marketplace who you are, what you stand for, what you do well, how you might be able to help them, and so on. Now, some of you might be thinking, I don't want to put all that stuff on the internet. That's scary stuff. Well, then maybe you're putting the wrong stuff because you're thinking about a lot of personal information. I don't recommend you put a lot of personal information. I recommend you put business stuff. On the other hand, it is out there. And, you know, I'm the kind of person that doesn't know where I'm as nervous as the next guy. Believe me, I'm 54 years old. But I can tell you that if you're not out there displaying your brand on tools like LinkedIn, other people are that are in your space, or let's call them competitors or whatever you're trying to do. So so you just sort of got to get your arms around the fact that this is happening. Now, that being said, if there's something that you're reading my book or somebody tells you to do on LinkedIn and you say, no way, my belly says that I'm not putting that on, like a home phone number, or you got 3 daughters and they go to this high school. Don't do that. You know, you should do what you feel comfortable in, all of this stuff. And so, you know, I don't know where this stuff's going, but I can tell you there are people accomplishing lots of business objectives using LinkedIn. Is there some risk? I suppose there's risk with most things that have a reward on the other side. So, but you got to feel comfortable. You know, don't let a guy like me talk you into something and push you over the edge of something you don't feel comfortable with. So maybe you have to spend some time on LinkedIn seeing what other people are doing before you decide to do your profile in a meaningful and interesting way. Now, a couple of things with the profile. We don't have time to cover the whole profile. As a matter of fact, half of my book is about how to do your profile correctly, section by section, strategy by strategy. Well, attached to this webinar is there are a couple handouts, an agenda, and also one handout called Keywords, the key to being found on LinkedIn. And in case you didn't get that, you can get that off my website in my resources free section. And this worksheet will help you figure out what kind of words, and the worksheet's right here. This is powerformula.net, by the way. Under my resources free, it's a LinkedIn keyword worksheet. Should be attached to this webinar. So what this worksheet does for you, it helps you think about the kinds of words that you need to describe yourself. Call them your keywords. You got to get used to your keywords because that's how everything works on the internet. And now I'm asking you to think of your own personal keywords. And it could be things like, for me, they are LinkedIn trainer, LinkedIn consultant, office furniture, interior design, Hayworth, the brand we sell. Those are keywords for me. You've got your own keywords. They could be certifications you have. They could be software that you know how to run. They could be the school that you went to. You have to figure out the right words. This worksheet will help you, and where to put those. And you'll see the top part of this worksheet, it talks about where you should put those words as you tell your story, because your profile at the 35,000-foot view is 2 things. It's keywords and story. Keywords, story, keyword, story, keyword, story. People are going to find you because of the keywords, just like we look for the electrical engineer in our search. They're going to find you because of keywords, but then once they land on your profile, are you interesting? Are the stories you're telling, and maybe even the recommendations you got, hopefully, are they telling the story so that somebody's interested in calling you or not? And the or not should only be because they read your full profile and say, well, I don't really need a person like that. Not because they go, I don't know what he does. I can't even tell, like that banker, right? So you got to be thinking about that. This is the first time in our careers that we had this chance to put our own personal branding profile out on the internet so that people can find us. And if you just step back and think about how powerful that is, you'll think twice about making sure that your profile is loaded up with good keywords and good stories. Now, let's talk a little bit about this 100% complete profile. Most of you in the audience probably do not have a 100% complete profile. My survey of the people that get my weekly tips say that about half of you might have your profile done 100%, the other half don't. Here's the situation behind that. LinkedIn has told us you'll be 40 times more effective if you have your profile 100% done. 40 times. Now just think about that. If you're going to play a game, let's call LinkedIn a game for a moment, don't you want to play it hard? And you play it hard by making sure you understand the rules and you do the things you need to do. And one of them on LinkedIn is to make sure your profile's done 100%. 40 times more effective. So the 2 things that sometimes hang people up on their profile are the picture, and they have trouble because they don't load up their skills. So let's just talk quickly about those. The rest of the things are in the book. Hopefully you'll pick that up and it'll help you do your whole profile. But look, on the picture, here's the thing about the picture, ladies and gents. It just makes you personal. It makes you become a person on LinkedIn with that picture next to all your great information. And if you think about a search that you do, like the one we did at the very beginning, ever notice where your eyes go when there's not a picture. Your eyes skip that entry. So you need to have a picture up there. And I like to tell people, hey, even an ugly picture is going to be better than no picture, because at least somebody's going to stop. So, get your picture up there. And it should be a professional picture. It shouldn't be you with your grandkids in front of the mountains. I love both those things, but you know what? This is not what this site is for. It's not Facebook. It's meant to be just a nice professional photo, mostly of your head, so that people can remember you if they've seen you, or bring a personality to the information that they're reading. Now let's talk a little bit about skills. Skills is the section, a special section on your profile that you need to have to get your profile complete. And this is what skills looks like after you've loaded up your skills. You're going to want to think of some of the keywords that are important to you and load those in like I have here. You can see these are my keywords. You're going to have to do the exact same thing. And the way you get to the skills section, which will help you get to 100% profile, is you go in here and you go to add sections. Once you click add sections, skills will show up as one of the additional sections that you can add to your profile. In this list here, it's not there now because I already have it. Click that on and start adding the words that describe what you do. So not only will those words show up on your profile just like you saw mine, but it'll also allow people to find you easier when they're doing a search. Okay, I have so much more I'd cover on the profile, but I gotta make sure I touch on a whole bunch of other great things before this webinar ends. But let me summarize where we are on this part of LinkedIn. This is the being found part. Prior to this, we've been talking about the finding part. This is being found. And it's about you doing your what right, your profile, okay? And profile is about keywords and story, keywords and story, keywords and story. And profile is also about making sure your profile is 100% complete. And remember this is your brand. This is who you are. It's what you stand for in the marketplace. It tells the world what it is you do and how they might want to come alongside you and work with you or not. And I want the or not to take place only because you're not the right match, not because they can't figure out what you do because your profile has very little on it. Okay, great. Let's move on. Next thing I want to stop and show you is groups. Groups is also a highly rated feature. By the way, I mentioned my tips that I do every weekend. You may want to consider going onto my website, and on all of the pages of my website, you'll be able to, up in the right-hand side, you can sign up for my free tips right here. Be sure to do that. Each Sunday, I share with my readers whatever I'm hearing this week or new features that I see on LinkedIn, things that I can help you with, and strategies behind LinkedIn. So feel free to sign up for that. Love to have you join the list. Now, I mention that because groups are always a highly rated feature when I do a survey, and I do surveys a couple times a year asking people what works on LinkedIn. And always the first or second feature, the top two rated features are advanced people searching and groups. So we talked about advanced people searching right on the front end. Let's talk about groups. So groups, here's what's going on in groups. It's people hanging out virtually together of similar interests, similar passions, histories together. We went to school together. We ride Harley Davidsons. We like to fly fish. We're all from Indianapolis. All those things. There are groups for all those kinds of, we're Green Bay Packer fans. We're whatever. Okay, so there are over 1,300,000 groups on LinkedIn. You can have a maximum of 50. And here's why groups are important. Because yes, you should be hanging out with the people you'd like to do something with. And that could be share information about your favorite hobby, or it could be sharing information about your industry or your expertise, or it could be you're looking for a job and you hope that in the alumni group where you went to college, somebody might see that. So it's this whole idea of tribing together virtually. But think about what I told you early on in the search. When we did advanced people searching, I said you could see somebody's profile if you're at the first degree, second degree, third degree, or what? You're in a group with somebody. So that's why it's also important to join groups, because you're going to see so many more profiles when you do searches. So how do you find groups? A lot of times you'll find groups by looking at the groups you're friends in, people in your industry, people in your company. Look at the groups they belong to. You'll see them at the bottom of their profile. Consider joining them. Or you go up here to groups, groups directory. And of course, we use what we use everywhere, keywords. So let's see if we got any groups that are specific to electrical engineers. I haven't done this search before. Let's see. Okay, so there are 487 groups who have the word electrical engineering in them. And the top one, the most members, they always go in the order, 94,894 members. So if you read this description and it looks like a group that makes some sense to you, join it. Because besides the great information that's discussed in there, maybe you can share, maybe you can answer things or talk about events or what your company's doing and what you're doing, you can also now see 94,000 more people when you do a search. And so that's why the people that, when they're doing searches, that know what they're doing, they have lots of connections because it gets them the second and thirds, as we talked about in the beginning, but it also, joining groups allows you to see more names too. So groups are a powerful tool. Now, a lot of people don't want to join a lot of groups because they don't want to get all the emails. And here's what I would tell you about that. I would tell you that you're going to have groups you want to be involved in and get all the emails, and some groups you just want to use for searching purposes. And in those groups, here's what you should do. Go up to settings, which you go to your name, scroll down and hit the settings, log back in, and we will now be on the settings page where there's lots of great settings here that you should check out and see how you might want to set things. There are defaults on all of them, but if you go to groups, you go to set the frequency of emails, and what you get a chance to do is change it from daily. The default is that you want to hear from that group daily. You can move it to weekly or no email. And you can do that for every one of the groups that you're in. So now you shouldn't have any hesitancy to join groups if your reason for joining a group is, I don't want to get all those crazy emails every day. So here's the strategy behind that. Back to the strategy behind groups. You join groups because you want to hang out with the same kind of people, you want to share information, you hope, and you get exposure both for you and you find other people. But some of those groups you may not want to hear all the conversations. For example, I tell people around here to join the Green Bay Packer group. And they go, well, I don't even like the Packers. I said, well, I don't care. There's 4,000 people in the Wisconsin area who are in it. It could be a good group for you to find people and them find you. And they said, but I don't want to hear all the discussions. I said, I know I don't want to hear all the discussions because it's always about Brett Favre. I mean, they're still talking about Brett Favre, believe it or not, here in Wisconsin. And I said, well, then you should shut the emails off, and you'll never hear another word. But you'll be able to find people, and they'll be able to find you. So groups are a great tool. I'm going to leave groups. We're sort of running short on our time here, but we'll keep moving. I'm going to show you another feature. It's contacts. When you get to contacts, scroll down to one of the schools you went to, click it on. In this case, I'm going to select Marquette. It shows me the years that I went to Marquette. There were 7,932 people currently on LinkedIn who went to Marquette in the 5 years that I went there. Let's dive a little deeper. We click See More. Let's say we're interested in meeting, we see Johnson Controls here, and we want to find out all of the engineers at Johnson Controls at the company. So there are 7, and here they are. That's powerful stuff, isn't it? The fact that you can come in here and search any years you want, look for people, where they work, what they do, and what part of the country they live in, all those people that went to the university that you went to. You can search any school you want just by coming into this box and clicking down here and typing in a different school name. Great networking tool. That's called the alumni feature. Once again, you get there by going to contacts and you slide down to one of your schools. And this is the kind of information that I share consistently on a weekly basis with my tips and in my books. So be sure to try to consider picking up the book and signing in for my tips. Okay, let's spend our last moments together going to the home page and talking about the home page and what's going on there. And this is a good chance for me to talk about time management on LinkedIn, because I know people come to my class or sit in on a webinar like this, and in about About this time, their eyes start glazing over going, oh my gosh, that's so much work. Oh, how much time is this going to take me? So here's the answer to that question. To do the information one time that is in a startup book like mine, it's going to take you 8 to 12 hours. One time. Sorry, I cannot microwave that for you. It's just the way it is. If you want to do things right, you're going to have to go through that process of 8 to 12 hours, and I promise you, you don't want to do those all in one weekend. Take them off in chunks, do them chapter by chapter, and you'll get through it, and you'll do your profile right, and you'll do your connections right by following that. So that's your upfront. Let's call that your upfront time. But on an ongoing basis, my survey, once again, says that over 2/3 of the people say that they spend 0 to 2 hours a week on LinkedIn. 0 to 2. So it isn't like this 8 or 9 hours, and it's 0 to 2 hours. And you know what I like about 2 hours? It's about the time, no problem. Football game, baseball game, I like sports, but I feel guilty watching them. Seems like I could do my LinkedIn, and I have done my LinkedIn during those times. And that's how you can maybe budget your LinkedIn time. Maybe you don't want to do it during the week because you're too busy. You might miss some things if you don't do it on a daily basis, but you know what? The key is to be consistent about your time on LinkedIn, and if you're going to do it once a week, then do that, but at least be consistent about that. So a couple hours a week is what you're going to have to budget. Now, one of the things that I share with people in my book is there's a chapter in there called Ready, Set, Go, a six-week, 2-hour per week roadmap to results. So it's exactly what it is you need to do in those 2 hours a week to get started. Okay, so here we are. We're at the home page, and what goes on at the home page are you're going to get a chance to see what your friends, these are your friends now on the left, who they're meeting, like Ronnie just met, or at least on LinkedIn, just connected with Rob on LinkedIn. So if I was interested in meeting Rob, I could reach out to Ronnie and say, hey, I see you know Rob, could you introduce me? That's one of the things. You get to read what things your network is reading and has interest in. And that's where I want you to start thinking about sharing information with people in your network, information that things you read, things you could share to show people that you're an expert and you're there to help them. And these are called status updates, and you simply just share those by coming up right next to your face here and typing in an update, adding a link if you want to do that. Now, status updates are really a powerful branding tool that you can use, but we're not here on LinkedIn to talk about status updates like we are on Facebook and Twitter, where we talk about breakfast, our dog, where we're going on vacation. Those are not allowed on LinkedIn. At least they're not. People don't like that. There's a business site. You should be talking about business events you're going to, articles you're reading, videos you've seen, websites you think were interesting, that kind of thing. Things your company's doing. But you don't want it to be too self-promoting. You want to share information about your industry, but once in a while you can talk directly about your company and what's going on. I think that's important. But if you do too much of that, people will just see you as selling on LinkedIn, and that's really not what we do here. So status update's a powerful tool. It allows you to communicate with the people at the first degree, just the first degree. And those are, remember, these people are your friends. Let me give you a couple of examples of how I've used this. One day my wife came up to me. It was a Saturday morning. I'll never forget it. I was writing my tip that weekend. I always write my tips on the weekends. And she came up to me and said, hey, if you haven't noticed, your daughter doesn't have a job for this summer. Now, my daughter was going to be a senior in high school. It was April. And so she had one more year to go in high school. And I said, and what does that have to do with me? And she said, well, can't you use LinkedIn to help your daughter find a job? And I said, well, I don't know. We'll try. And I typed in the status update box, looking for a job for my senior in high school daughter. Babysitting, yard work, clerical, anything, right? Anything. Well, I pushed the blue button, the share button. And by the very next evening, so, less than 36 hours, I walked up to my wife and said, here are 5 jobs for Deanna. Names and email address of people who responded to me over the weekend when I posted the status update. Well, she got one of those jobs, and she's had it the last 4 summers while she's been in high school and college. And chances are she's going to work there when she graduates from college, all because I used the status update. Let me give you a second one. The second one was my service manager here at our office furniture business walked in and said he needed 4 college guys to work for 3 weeks unboxing chairs at the Marquette University Law School for a project in 2 weeks. And I said, well, let me see what I can do about that using LinkedIn. and I typed in that box looking for 4 college students, 3 weeks, $10 an hour, unboxing chairs. Let me know if you know of anyone. And within, get this, within an hour and a half, I had 5 parents contact me. You got a job for my kid? Are you kidding me? And we had the 5 people within a day. So that's what this is for. You know, it's a powerful tool. And I know people might hesitate a little bit with the status updates, and partly they hesitate because of on Facebook it's so much personal stuff. But on LinkedIn, it's a great communication tool that you can use to reach out to your network, to share great information, but also ask questions of things that they might be able to help you with. Okay, well, here's what I'm going to close. I'm going to close with this, and it's the fact that the title of my book, it's an encouragement to you. The title of my book is The Power Formula for LinkedIn Success. Now, what is the power formula? The power formula is we all have lots of great relationships that we've gathered over the years. We have great experience, plus the tool. So 3 components: relationships, experience, the tool in this case is LinkedIn, equals the power. Now let's talk about these 3 components quickly. We have lots of the first 2. We know lots of people. We have good friends. We have a great network. We have great stories to tell. That's our experience. But a tool like LinkedIn is hanging us up because it's new and it's different. It's a computer. I don't want to do it. I don't have time. I know all the reasons. Believe me, I was there. But we have the first 2. And so you, over a weekend, you could really get started on LinkedIn, or over a couple of weeks. You can't, in a couple of weeks, get lots of relationships and have lots of stories to tell about your experience. And I compare this to when I teach this at college campuses. Students don't have the first 2. You know, they're Mr. Breitbart. How am I supposed to get connected? Mr. Breitbart, what stories do I have to tell? But yet, when it comes to the third thing, the tool, they understand online. They understand Facebook's and LinkedIn's sort of close to that, and so on and so forth. But they can't get the first 2. So my encouragement to you is that this is a social media tool that's really built for people who have been in business for a while, because it really takes the first 2 to be powerful. It takes relationships, those are called connections, and it takes your experience, which is all about your profile and the stories you're telling. So get a hold of the book, grab that 3rd component of the power formula, and think about